Hey guys, we're in the car right now. We just got to Bob's house. He's a local hobbyist that has 35 fish tanks in his fish room. I've only seen it on video just for a few seconds, so I can't wait to dive into his fish room here. Let's go check it out. Hey guys, welcome to thedirtytank.com. Today I have Bob with me, and we're going to do a tour of his fish room. I've just got here today, just a few minutes ago, and the fish room is looking really good. Can't wait to get you guys a tour, an inside look. Bob, how are we doing today?
Good, good.
Yeah?
Glad to have you over. Yeah, doing well.
Well, thanks for having me over. I really like the way the fish room's looking. What kind of fish keeper are you? Like what fish do you specialize in?
Right now, mostly live bearers, some catfish, and killifish. Been everything from a cichlid guy to you name it. So I've really kept and bred many different types of fish. But right now, mostly live bearers, just because of where we live, the quality of the water. I found what does best. I don't heat the tanks, I heat the room. So, you know, I've got gadeids. Most of the fish are Mexican fish, so they're not as warm a climate fish, which, you know, some people don't realize how the mountains in Mexico.
Yeah, it could be cooler.
So yeah, that's kind of how the way it's played out for right now. So this is a 150 plexiglass tank. I got this tank in Florida from one of my customers down there. It's 24 inches wide and it's about almost the same height and it's 6 feet long. So
it really looks good. I see you have Java moss, you got some bulbitis, good looking Java fern over here. A lot of these fish I recognize from the auction, your swordtails, I love them. What kind of swordtails are these?
So these are Xiphophorus alvarezi. I got from Alex Scharnberg actually, and then I also have some gadeids in here. The trout gadeids are Iliodon. Iliodon is.
I'll have to get a close up. Tell me about these gadeids. Is that
yeah? So these fish, all of these the swordtails and the gadeids are from Mexico. The gadeids are endangered, and I guess really you could say swordtails are too.
And they're live bears as well, right?
They're different from your actual live bearers. So when a live bearer gives birth, they actually give birth to live fish. When the gadeids give birth, there's actually an umbilical cord that's actually connected to the female. Sort of an umbilical cord, if you will, and so a trophius. Well, I forget what they call it, the scientific term. But anyway, it's interesting when they give birth. It's you know. They don't give birth to many at one time, you know, maybe 5 or 6, depending on the size of the fish. Whereas live bearers can drop, you know, I don't know, 20 or more. You know, the interesting thing about these fish is they throw red and orange, and there's like a green male, but it's not a helleri. The helleris have the melanophores on the black spots on them. But this one will actually get a broad, it'll look like this male here as it ages.
Get more of the orange.
Yeah, but what I've noticed with these fish is the orange ones or the red ones tend to be males and the green ones tend to be females. I got a bunch of young ones in this tank here too. As they progress in development. So what you'll get, that's going to be a male right there. You get some of the bigger bodied fish are a slower developing male, and then you get the fast developing little skinny young males. And actually what you want, according to what I've learned over the years, is you want the bigger bodied males because you want the bigger fish. People want those bigger swordtails. And you know, as you can see, they're pretty good size.
Yeah, they're decent size. Yeah.
They're fun because it's always something in motion. There's always something going on. Males sparring with each other. These fish, they're always hungry, and they'll eat pretty much anything. I feed everything from flake food to frozen food to pelleted food to also make the rapashi food too. So, a guy I work for at Atlantis Aquarium, Jerry Whitfield, who's kind of like a early mentor to me in the fish industry. We put the aquariums on the set of a Burt Reynolds movie called Sharky's Machine. Yeah. And you don't see it, it's not that quick, but the guy bought all these tanks and we went and installed them, you know, on the set. And
Whoa, so it's in a movie?
It's in a movie, Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds.
Machine.
It was filmed in downtown, part of it in downtown Atlanta.
Do you see the fish tanks in there?
You can, it's not, I mean, it's
just a few seconds?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I gotta see if I can find that
Yeah.
small clip and overlay it.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Very
So
cool.
that's kind of a claim to fame. But Jerry did a great job selling this guy. I mean, they just wandered in the store one day, and next thing I know, we're hauling this stuff out, you know. And
Gosh.
Jerry, I hope you see this.
All right, so right to the right, we have another tank here. There's a ton of Anubias in here. Is that Anubias growing out? Like,
Yeah.
That's Anubias, that's not Pothos.
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Anubias.
That's crazy. That is a ton.
So Anubias is not a true aquatic plant.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It's a terrestrial plant that just grows well in the rivers and streams. You know, these plants come out of Africa and I think probably Asia too. Well, I've got some Bucephala, whatever it's called, down here. It's a similar type of plant which comes out of Indonesia, which is like the new Anubias.
Yeah.
And because it's so darn expensive and it's slow growing.
It is.
But that's a terrestrial plant, but it will grow in the aquarium as well too. Yeah.
You know, I didn't know that.
And there's not really algae is true aquatic, but most plants are just they're not true aquatic plants, but they'll grow up out
Immersed,
of it.
out of
And the same with the bulbitis or bulbitis, whatever you want to call it. This is a different type of Anubia over here. I forget what it's called, Hastafola or something like that.
Cow, Bob. Look at the rhizome on that Anubias.
Yeah. Well, look over here.
Ooh, you got another.
Look right here.
Oh, yeah. Look at this root system. Holy cow.
So it's attached to, there's a piece of driftwood that runs from there to the corner up here. So
Okay.
it runs the whole length of the tank, and it's attached to that, and so is the fern.
And you got a ton of fish in here. These are swordtails.
These
right?
are the Alvarez swords too. I've got the you'll see them occasionally. There's about 5 or 6 skunk cories in here too.
Okay.
The Grant Eye, I think they are. And then there's a bunch of super red bristlenose in here too.
Oh,
This
you
was
got some
the
super
tank where
reds,
they were spawning like crazy. Let me see if I can draw this.
So what size is this aquarium here?
It's an 85.
Okay.
It's an old oceanic, the driftwood style tank. It's an old tank.
So you have a ton of plants in here, ton of swordtails,
Yeah,
all
I'd say-
different sizes too.
Yeah.
I can see a lot of little babies
Yeah.
over here. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a really tiny baby right there. Oh yeah, they could definitely survive. Like you don't even have to take them out. There's so many hiding spots.
Yeah, and there's a couple people that want some of the bristlenose, and so you can see a bristlenose coming out in the corner over there.
Oh, this is the super red bristlenose.
Yeah. Some of them do have a little bit of the marbling in them.
And these are all low light plants, so they do well with
Yeah.
even
There's another coming out
Oh,
here.
there's another little super red.
And
down there.
there's an albino in the middle. See the albino?
The
right there?
albino, let me get to him. There he is. Look at that little fella. Oh, I see. No, that's not a corridor. That's a swordtail.
There's a cory right here.
Oh, that's a skunk, right? Or is that?
Yeah, there's 2.
There's 2 of them. Oh, the skunks.
I
look
think
really
there's
good.
5 in there.
They're chunky too.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I love it. Yeah, good looking tank. Now let me ask you about these. You were calling them a box filter, right?
Yeah, that's commonly what people call them. box
So
filter.
so they look like they act a lot like a sponge filter.
Well, you can actually some of these you can put sponges in them, and run them that way. You're just forcing water down in there. There's a pipe that runs, 2 pipes that run through the center, one for the air and the other one for the air to come back out. Okay, and it sucks in through these slats in the top, and the little boxes are the same way. That's where they got the name box filter, is the shape. These are made by Penplax. I worked for Penplax for 5 years back in the 90s.
Okay.
Selling their stuff. And I get them from Jimco. Jimco is a fish outlet that they do all kinds of frozen food. I get the Jimco pump. The linear piston pump runs all my tanks.
Yeah, that powers all, that's a filtration for everything in this room. Yeah, okay.
So it's not as expensive as a blower, but it's much quieter and much nicer than a diaphragm pump.
Okay.
So I've got a spare piston here. It's just a system in the middle, the way it works, blowing the air out. It's a couple $100 for one of those, but I've had it running for 7 years. This is the first time it's been unplugged.
7 years, well, yeah, we plugged it for the video,
Yeah. So it's just simple. It's the KISS method is what I like to do nowadays. And there is an E-heim on this tank. So on my 3 biggest tanks, I do run the canister filters too. You can see it off on the back there.
Yeah, I see it back there.
And of course, there's one right behind you on the floor.
The E-heim. Yeah, I never had the E-heim. E-heims, they're like indestructible, right?
Well, I got to say, I've had E-heims since the 80s, and they're great filters as far as I'm concerned. You know, there are more filters that are out, canisters that are easier to change and clean and stuff, but they're efficient. They work for me. You know, there's an impeller that runs on a ceramic rod, and really the only thing you have to replace is the ceramic rod periodically. They'll wear. Yeah. So I keep some replacements of those. I occasionally will replace the hoses because the hoses tend to get stiff over time. Yeah. But that's going to happen with most any of those type of hoses. Same with your air pump hoses. These are silicone now. I'm using silicone.
I like the silicone.
I'll buy I get the roll, the 200-foot roll, and I'll just periodically go through and change those as well too. But so you can run these as biological as mechanical. Either way, I'll run most of mine both ways. I'll change the floss out when the floss gets dirty. Every couple of months I just get these big bags of floss. Yeah. The pillows.
So I feel like it's the same idea of a sponge filter, but I feel like you can modify that to polish the water or to have
buffer the water
because
there's a aragonite in here, as well as there's some
well, you put whatever you want in it. So you have crushed coral, you have filter floss, and you have like lava rock. Is that your
those
method?
Little biological, I've got a jar of it out there.
I know what you're talking about. Very porous stone type thing.
Not Purigen. What is it? There's one that I can't over here. But Seachem has one, but it's a really porous type of lava rock that just works well for culturing bacteria. That's all. You're looking for surface area to culture the bacteria. So just very easy to maintain.
Well, this tank is right underneath the 150 that we took a look at. And you were telling me this is a 75-gallon tank. What all do we have in here?
So we have, I've got 4 Paleotis in here, and the red lizards and the angels. The angels, they're the only cichlids I currently have.
Okay.
I don't normally, these 2 tanks, I have a mix of fish. Most all the rest of my tanks are just single species.
Single species,
except for my 3 big tanks have mixed.
Well, let me ask you more about these. You said red lizards?
Yeah,
because I don't think I've seen these. I'm guessing they're a catfish?
They are. They're similar to Plecostomus in a way.
Yeah.
They're called their genus is Rhinolorcara. They're like the whiptail cats.
They're like the whiptail. Yeah.
I mean, you can see the longer, thinner tail, and the males have a nice filament off of the caudal fin. The males tend to be a little slender, and then there's a big, chunky female in here well too. They usually hide back over here in this corner.
So are you planning on breeding these fish, or they're just a fun fish?
No, I figured that, I got them because I liked them, and I only have 4. I probably should get, another 4 more or 6. Generally if you get a group of fish and let them pair off on their own, that's generally the way I do it.
Okay.
Who knows? We just let nature take its course and see what happens. But they do like the warmer water. That's why I moved them in here.
That makes sense,
But because the tank they were in, the water was anywhere from 66 to 68.
So how big do these guys get?
That's not much. There's a big female right here, I think.
I see her inside the tube down there.
Might be a male. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've done a little research on them, but and they were in they were in one of the Amazonas magazines several years back. They say it was the red is like a development from somebody breeding them. nobody really seems to know the story on, from what I've found out.
So they're usually not red.
They're usually more of a brownish.
Brown, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And I can see they do have like a sucker type mouth. Too.
Yeah. And, you know, they'll generally lay the eggs up on the glass, and the male will generally take care of the eggs. You know, kind of like with the plecostomus, you know, except the plecostomus is like a cave.
Like a cave, yeah.
And the males will take care of the eggs with them.
So with this next tank, these are 20 gallon.
They're 20 hives.
Okay. And in here you said they're just Gardneri, killifish.
Yeah. Just a trio in there. You know, so they're just a fun little fish, but typically you have the wet seasons and you have the dry seasons in the tropical areas like Africa and South America, places, Asia, wherever. And these fish, the way they reproduce is they'll lay their eggs in like a little puddle or pond or whatever, and as it dries up, the eggs will go into a diapause and they'll be buried down in the mud. And then as the rains come, they hatch out.
Yeah.
And that's how the species survive. So yeah, 9 5-gallon tanks on this little rack. And I would just take a pair of Gardneri and put them in one tank, and I'd leave them in there for about 2 weeks. Then I'd pop them out, put them in the tank next to it, and leave them for a couple weeks. And then it usually takes 2-3 weeks. The eggs will hatch, and then you'll see the little fry in there. And I kept some. I had some other killies that I did that with, and it seemed to work. So I've got some up here in this 10-gallon tank that I pulled fish out of. So I'm hoping. I also use mops too. You can make the mops.
I do. I use the mops, and then I pick the eggs out.
Yep.
But what you do.
I'm the lazy man. The plant.
I like that. Yeah. Because especially if it's a species only, it's you just let it do its thing, and then occasionally you just swap. You move the parents to a different tank. Type of thing. Yeah. Not a bad idea. Well, I like that tank. Now, directly to the right of it.
These are a different type of swordtails. These are Maiae. These are Xiphophorus Maiae, which are a bigger bodied swordtail. They're both on. They're kind of the orangish. They have some nice lateral stripes in the body. But they're get to be a big bodied fish up to 6 inches.
Okay.
So I had an opportunity. A guy had a listing on the American Live Bearer page where you do fish that you want to get rid of or swap or trade or whatever. And the guy had these, and I'd been looking for some for a few years. A guy Greg Sage that's big into the live bearers. Lives in Colorado.
Okay.
I've been to his place. Got quite a setup.
Nice.
But he keeps good, rare, obviously Gadads and live bearers. He ran out of these, and so I hadn't been able to acquire any. And these fish came through him to this guy out of South California, and so he shipped them to me I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was excited to get them. So
so where did you get these from? What's the website, or is it a website?
It was American Live Bearer Association. So if you're a member, you get a monthly or bi-monthly bulletin, and there's a list of wants and haves. So if people list on there, and you can buy fish from them, and they'll just mail them to you. They just mail them through U.S. mail through.
So it's like a group
priority. It's a club. It's a national club, American Live Bearer.
And anybody can join.
Anybody can join. I'm a member of the American Killifish Association, so that's where I get a lot of the killies over the years. People will send you eggs. People can send you fish with the killies.
Yeah,
it's cool.
That is cool.
It's fun.
So the American Live Bearer Association,
the ALA, and then the AKA, the American Killifish Association. You can Google them. And you can become a member. And there's the American Killifish Association is the longest functioning aquarium club in the United States, and there's a bunch of I've met tons of great people through it. I've been to some conventions. There's American Cichlid Association too.
Okay.
And for instance, like the Atlanta Area Aquarium Association, I was a member of that local club in Atlanta, and we hosted the ACA convention. I think it was in 2000, 2001. They did it twice in the 2000s. Just go to a convention. It is amazing. And now, of course, you get the YouTubers there and the guys that do podcasts, LRB, Lucas Bretz and what is it, Bentley Pasco, and some of the other guys, the guys from Aquarium Co-op, come around, and you get to meet and see some of these guys doing their thing too, which is kind of fun. But the other thing too is just people that you know. Like when I lived in Florida, we had the Suncoast Killie Society, and there was a group of guys there. Good friend of mine, Bill Shields, who worked for I think it was 5D aquarium, tropicals, fish farm, and he was responsible in helping bring the fish that we now know as the glowfish.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Bill's big in the AKA and a lot of these other clubs too. There's quite a bunch of guys. I got to meet a guy, Dr. Harry Speck, who was president for many years of the AKA. He's since passed, but I got to go fish collecting with him in Florida.
Oh, really?
And I met some of these other guys too, that people know their names as cichlid guys and things like that. So it's fun. And it's a good way to meet people and to learn things. They have workshops during these things, and they have speakers that come in and they talk to you about things that are going on, like the plight with the fishes in Madagascar and what's going on there. And so it's the Gadaeds and what's happening in Mexico and stuff. And they'll have auctions with different groups, and then they have a main auction, and then they have a table auction thing where everybody brings in fish, and they have tables set up, and you go out there, and it's just a feeding frenzy of people trying to get fish. It's kind of like, and then they'll do silent auctions of fish and things like that too. What was that?
I think that was Raphael in the garage. Yeah.
And so anyway, it's fun. They're fun.
So that's the swordtail.
Yeah.
And then right here,
these are the Chromaphia simian-bytinianum.
Oh, so what are they? Are they a library?
They're killifish too.
Oh, they are killifish. I see one right there.
Mop in there. Yeah, that's a female there. There's two pair in here.
I don't think I've ever seen or heard of these fish.
They're not common, but they are in a sense. And they're a good plant spawner fish too. That's why I did what I did with them. So the fungula panchax, the Chromaphia simian, were all from the Aphia simian genus, and they kind of split them off into these subgenus groups, if you will. They're sometimes known as chromes as well too, because they have some beautiful coloration. They tend to be more of a slender fish. They have some gorgeous finnage on them.
It's pretty good looking.
There's one.
I see another one. Oh yeah.
Let's drop some food in there and see.
Oh, perfect. And so, how long do these killifish live?
These will live, up to a couple of years. And the thing about these is you can kind of keep a couple of different generations in the tank together. So that's female there. There's a male coming out. You see him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His fins are a lot more flashy.
Yeah. And then there's the other male right there. He's coming out too.
I see him. You gave him some baby brine. They love it. Yeah, these are some good looking killifish. I do got to ask you a question. So I do see some of your tanks, you keep the water level much lower.
Yep.
Is that on purpose?
Killifish are jumpers, and I try to cover them well too.
Yep.
Killifish are prone to hop out. That's why I have all the duckweed and the Sylvania
minima. Maybe a Zola in there too. Yeah.
Because it's the top cover, they won't tend to hop out as much. But yeah, I just keep the levels low on the killie tank. I mean, all fish are prone to jump.
Yeah.
I found a swordtail on the floor the other day.
Yeah.
And from just a few fish, people propagate them and send the eggs around, and then people carry on. And that's part of the thing of conservation and husbandry of these animals is we want to keep them going as long as we can. Because of things that happen to the habitats and whatnot. You have areas like Indonesia and in Africa and South America that as the population grows, they're starting to put palm farms in and things like that. And they're the habitat destruction. One of the biggest is with the bettas going on right now.
Really?
In Thailand, and it's not Burma anymore, but it's in Malaysia. And that's happening with the killies, the Gadaeds, with everything.
Yeah.
It's happening here in the United States with native fish, and I'm a member of NANFA too.
I've seen
the
NANFA,
North American Native Fish Association, which 2 years ago they had a meeting down in Colombia, and I joined back again right after that. I've been a member on and off, but they do a lot of good with things that are going on with our native fish. I'm a trout fisherman. I love to fish. I eat fish, but I just love keeping them too. So.
Yeah. All right. So killifish tank. Now we're looking at.
These are just the bronze or green cories, the Corydorus aeneas. There's about 20 in here, and you'll see some different size ones.
What size aquarium is this?
This is a 37-gallon aquarium. It's an odd-shaped tank.
It is odd-shaped.
I got it probably about a dozen years ago down in Florida. I saw it. I was just like, it's a cool tank. tank. It's got some good surface area. So when the filters are running, they'll lay eggs over in those corners. They'll lay eggs, they've laid eggs here. They'll lay, in a good group, they'll just lay eggs all over the tank.
Yeah, everywhere, yeah.
And that's when you're like, God, there's so many eggs, I don't know what to do. But they typically will spawn in those corners where the bubble filters are, or whatever you want to call them, box filters.
Yeah, I really like the layout of this tank. Like, it looks good. Like, it looks messy, but like it looks good at the same time. Like, the messiness works.
I'm constantly fighting the green slime algae in this tank, which is okay because I think it's a lot to do with the organic decay of the driftwood in there. There's a piece in the back there that's been in there forever, and the wood just rots in the tank. That's what it does. Let's face it. But it's okay. It's okay. When I drain the tank down, the ones in the corners and the back, I just spray it down with hydrogen peroxide.
Oh, yeah?
I just squirt it in there, and it helps keep it under control. But it's all right. I can live with it. I don't care. It doesn't bother them.
No, not at all. Yeah, I had the green slime, the cyanobacteria.
Yeah.
And I noticed it was growing on the driftwood and on leaves. You're right.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what it likes the most, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, you got a good bit of corridors in here.
Yeah, there's about 20 in here. I started out with 7.
Okay.
I've got a tank down here with a bunch of fry in there. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 15, maybe 20 down there.
Okay.
There's a tank over here that's got a bunch of fry in it. And and there's probably another 20 in here.
Yeah, there's a ton in there.
So I have a method that I've learned. These fish, they like cooler water. A lot of fish.
Wait, so how cool? What would you say the temperature?
So, like I said, the temperature in my tanks here is anywhere from, it's gotten down as low as 64, typically 66, 68.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets hot outside in the summer, they've gotten up to 72, 73.
Okay.
But they like the cooler water, and this is the right time of year for them to lay eggs. So I got back home from traveling from work last weekend, and I stopped and got some bloodworms. I've been out for a while. Mm-hmm. And that night I fed them bloodworms, and I got down here late that morning. They had laid eggs already.
How do you hatch them out?
So I didn't come up with this idea, but I kind of just changed it for me. So you can get these things. This is a Chinese company, I think, made this one. It's just a fish hatchery box, and you can put segments in here, and people put live bearers in there, the females, when they're going to drop price. So what I do is I scrape the eggs off. Use my sheets card, plug for sheets, get your gas there. I scrape the eggs off. Yeah. And I take water out of the aquarium, and I'll put the eggs in here, and about that much water, maybe an inch or so water. Okay. Then I run an air stone. Okay. All right, off of my pump down into here, and then I'll take a little pipette, about a half a pipette, one of these.
Wait, of hydrogen peroxide?
Hydrogen peroxide, and put it in the water.
Really?
So instead of using methylene blue or acroflavine or any of those things, which sometimes those dyes have been known to cause deformities, the hydrogen peroxide will work with keeping the fungus down on the eggs. And I very rarely have problems with the eggs fungusing. I'll stick this way inside the aquarium.
Okay, so it stays warm.
So it keeps the water temperature about the same, and I have the air stone in there. Every day that I'm home, I'll change the water. I'll go through with the pipette. I'll get the fish poop or the gunk, whatever, out of here. I'll throw a little bit of moss in here, and I'll throw 1 or 2 ram's horn snails in here. Okay, yeah. So the thing about ram's horn snails is they'll help cycling a tank. They'll help keep mold and detritus down in aquariums, and they won't eat the eggs. Well, I usually do it once the eggs hatch. They typically don't eat the eggs, but I don't know. They may or may not. Yeah. But I'll do it right after they hatch, and you see the little wigglers in there. Okay. And then about 2 or 3 days later, I keep frozen brine shrimp. I've got a hatchery. Again, when I retire, I'm going to start hatching my own brine shrimp. It's just I travel a lot with work. So I'll put the frozen brine shrimp in here. And then as the little guys get bigger and bigger, I'll move them into a 10-gallon tank. Actually, there's a couple of little fry in here in this 10-gallon tank too. Just a couple that I noticed the other day I need to move. But, and I'll just fill it about halfway up. I keep a little bit of sand on the bottom. I run the box filter filter, and I'll just put some moss and stuff in there, and you can see the ram's horn snails.
Yeah.
And I'll feed them, I'll buy Canocyclops from Zoo Med. You can get like a little multi-pack of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll feed that too, which is great for fry and little baby fish.
Cyclops, is that smaller
It's
than
called
Daphnia?
Canocyclops.
Yeah.
It's just a good, rich protein fish. Baby brine shrimp is fantastic too. And I'll feed Daphnia as they get bigger too. And then I'll eventually get to the adult brine shrimp and the bloodworms too. But, and you can even, I've got a mortar and pestle here, and I'll crush up dry food too and just put the powder in the water.
Yeah.
Because the little guys, we used to buy this, it was called fry food, and it was powdered eggs.
I've seen people
just
use
some
that.
various things in there now. But now with the advancement of a lot of fisheries, the spirulina algae and the krill and the plankton and stuff like that. There's another one that I use here too. This is from Brine Shrimp Direct. It's Arctic copepods, but this stuff is great stuff too. It's rich in protein.
Yeah, it's really fine too.
Yeah. After a couple of weeks, I'll just move them into a 10-gallon tank, and as you can see, it's working. So.
It's definitely working. You got a good bit of Corydora. So you take the eggs out, you put them in here, a little bit of peroxide, air stone. How long does it take them to hatch?
Depends. I mean, usually a couple days. They'll hatch.
And you do water changes on that every day?
Daily. I'll get it out, and then even after they've hatched out, I'll just kind of pour it off and watch the frying. I just pour it into like something like this measuring cup.
Yeah.
And that way, if any fry go in there, I can take a pipette and get them out.
Out.
But once you've done it a few times and you have the method down, it's just second nature. It's easy.
All right, so now we're going to the bottom of this rack. What do we have?
All right, so in the little 20 high here, we've got some red-tailed gadaeans, Xenotoca duadrio IE.
So you got
it's hard for me to pronounce.
You got a lot of different godaeans, huh?
Yeah, and these are San Marcos location. There's a female right there.
Oh yeah.
And these fish, the adults were just beautiful. These fish, and I sold them, and I kept a bunch of the fry. They just kept having babies. There's a little male right there. You can see he's got his tail starting to turn orangish, reddish.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's about 4 females left and 4 males. So I'm gonna, do something with them this spring outside.
Outside?
But they're growing. They're not fast-growing fish. One thing about godaeans is.
The next one.
So the next tank over, these are. I got these from a guy over out of the Bristol, Tennessee area. The blue Japan top fin sword, and then the platinum. You can see the golden in here or whatever.
So are these guppies or endlers?
Yeah, these are like a little endler type guppy. You see how big the male is. I mean, he's tiny, and the females are bigger. And so I've got a bunch of fry from them. I got them at an auction last year sometime.
So you get your fish from like auctions mainly and online, or?
Yeah, well, like my go-to live fish store is Upscale.
Okay. So you do
Yeah, like the fish in the tank next to it. These are the humpback godaeans. Godaeans. The humpback lameas. And they're from Caribbean area. These fish are out of the Dominican Republic, and they'll got these from Matt.
From Upscale, yeah, I like Upscale. They have a lot of cool fish.
So these are Lamea nigrofasciatus, the humpback lamea. These are from Costa Rica. Most of your lameas, they're very closely related to the mollies.
Okay.
I got these from Matt at Upscale a couple of years ago, and I've had many groups go through that come out of these fish. They don't have as many fry. They probably have about 4 or 5 max at a time. But the fry are large.
Oh,
the
really?
parents don't predate on them or anything, and there's about 5 fish in here.
And what's these plants in the containers? Is that just to grow them?
Those are crypts. Yeah, I was trying this thing that I had them outside, and I had them in the little containers. And there's some sand and stuff in there, so it just makes it easy to move around, like if you're cleaning the tank and stuff.
Yeah.
I've got some crypts that you can see that are planted in the tanks, and I've got a few in some of these little buckets. It's kind of a little thing. I did a thing with these windy eyes here. Steve Perkins got me doing it. He's big into cryptocoryns. He's got all kinds of rare varieties, and he raises them immersed.
Yeah, I picked up like a whole bag full, like way back when,
So I tried it with the windy eye last summer in a tub outside, and you put the Miracle Grow media in there. You plant them in that, and you water them, just a mister, and you cover it up, and it gets humid in there. And you know, I've set it out on the patio where so it'll get a little indirect sunlight. And they grew like crazy. The thing about growing them in this method is if you transplant them into the aquarium, they don't melt off like crypts typically do.
Yeah.
You know, if you buy them out of Florida or somewhere where they've had them outside, and they'll melt back for a bit. And as long as you have the rhizome, they'll come back.
Yeah.
But these have done well. And this is a group right here. You can see that it's really done well. And I keep a lot of those. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, those look really good.
So I got black mollies in this tank next. Lameas, baby green cories, which we've already talked about, and then the black mollies.
All the way in this last one. Yeah, those black mollies look pretty good.
I've had them for a couple of years now. I got them from a guy that had some in the club, and if you can see the reflection. They might come out.
Yeah, I'll probably go look
Here
closer.
they come. Here they come.
Oh, here's one. Yeah, I see him.
So my story about black mollies. I love these little fish. So before I got my first aquarium, I was 9 years old, and some new kids moved into our neighborhood. They had some mollies in a 10-gallon tank. So I went over, they said, come on, this fish, we can watch our fish have babies. So go over there, spend the night. We stayed up all night long and watched this female molly give birth.
Did you really?
And I was hooked.
How old were you?
I was hooked. I was 9. I was hooked. And I came home the next day, all excited and everything. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, I gotta get in an aquarium. We watch these fish have babies, blah, 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 blah. And over the years, we had a fall festival or fair or Halloween thing at our school every year. And you know, you threw the ping pong balls and you get the goldfish bowl with the goldfish and everything, or they'd have guppies or whatever. So over the years, we'd gotten them. And of course, kid coming up, you know, you like to look at them, but you don't want to take care of them and you don't want to feed them and all that stuff. So my 10th birthday, my parents got me a 10-gallon tank. It was the old Meta frames with the metal frame with the slate bottom. You know, it weighed like 50 pounds. But you know what I'm talking about. It's not like a 10-gallon today. And had the little box filter in it, had the little heater in it, had a little incandescent bulb on the top. And they said, if you can keep your fish alive, we're good with it. So my brother got one too, just cause he younger brothers and all that. So I ended up with my brother's 10-gallon, with my 10-gallon, with a 2.5-gallon tank. And then when we moved to Atlanta, my several of friends that have contacted me over the years over Facebook, you still keep all those fish? My bedroom was an aquarium coming up, high school, and, you know, all that. So yeah, it just these are the instigators. These are the ones that got me.
These are the ones that started it all.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I got these from one of the guys in the club, and he brought them to me. I said, you know, I was telling him the story, and the next meeting, he brought me these. There's 4 males and 2 females. I've yet to. There's a couple females that always look gravid. Maybe they're eating the fry. I don't know, but
Oh, so you haven't had too many fry yet?
no, I haven't had.
They're definitely having babies.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably eating them, but it's just one of those things. And I think when I put them out last year in the summer, and the males develop a yellowish orangish edge to the caudal fin, to the tail fin. It's real pretty. But when you bring them back in, they're not getting the sunlight that they were outside, and they're not eating mosquito larvae and whatnot, and so it's kind of faded. But I've noticed that a lot with a lot of fish when you put them outside, the sunlight and stuff. It just gives them, I guess, vitamin D. I don't know.
Could be.
And that's the one thing about this room. If I had to do it all over again, I'd look for one that had a window. My fish room in Florida, I had a front window and a side window and a plant. So I had Amazon swords in this 150. You wouldn't believe it. Yeah. But the plants still do well, and I switched everything over now to LED lighting, and seems to work out fine. Anyway, it's my Molly story, and I'm sticking to it. So there's a Nubius in there too that obviously is doing well.
Good looking Anubias, good looking cryptocorin. What's with the slate rock? I see them in both these tanks.
So these tanks, I set these 20 highs up for breeding angelfish.
Gotcha.
So and I set them up well before I got these angels over here. It was just a thought.
Yeah.
You know, the angels have a place to lay eggs and whatnot. And then when I decided to get these angels, it was just on a whim, but I already had the tanks running. The tanks recycled now and everything. And So eventually, once I get some pairs out of these, they'll go into 20 eyes, and hopefully we get something going with them.
Then we'll see some at the club.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're on the third or fourth rack on this wall, and this is a really interesting fish, Bob. I try not to spook them.
Yeah, these are Aphyosemion australe. These are probably the bread and butter for a lot of killifish beginners and keepers, kind of like the striatums. So there's 2 females in the male, and you can see the male. He's the one with the lyre tail. He's
really good.
He's in the back there.
Oh, that's the male back there. Yeah. So the female. This one's really orange.
Yeah,
this is a female.
One. Yep. Those 2 are females, and so these fish are, what were we talking about, hybrids earlier?
Yeah.
These are not hybrids, but these are a color strain variation from an original fish is called the chocolate Australian. Mm-hmm. And they're sort of a chocolate color, and they've got red and orange in them, the spots. So these fish were developed to get for the orange coloration.
They look good. They're nice and orange for sure.
Yeah, and there he is. He's gorgeous. These are probably one of my favorite killies.
Oh, there's the
and these
male.
are African as well too. As a matter of fact, all the killies I have currently are from Africa.
What are the names of this one? Because I haven't seen these.
Aphyosemion australe gold or orange.
Oh wow. That's a good-looking killifish.
And I got these from Mark Powell out of Texas through the AKA.
Oh, he's munching.
And one of the fish, actually one of the females I got from one of the guys in the club lost his male. He said, I got a female. Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, I think we got a good image on him now. I'm bringing a light up. Really cool fish. Are you breeding these?
I'm waiting. I mean, I've got a mop in there for eggs, but I need to, I haven't pulled it out obviously in a while. You can see there's some algae growing on it, but I just moved them recently out of a tank into that tank to see if any will hatch out. And if not, I'll go through that mop, see if I can pick some eggs.
Yeah, I don't see anything immediately, but...
Well, they usually lay them up in the knot.
What about this guy? Is this a little baby?
There's some fry in there. These are the Aphyosemion sheely.
Oh, so these are different.
I lost my male. The female's down in my Lonely Hearts killifish tank. But I've got, there's 6 or 8 fry in there.
Yeah, I see one right above the filter.
Yep. And there's one up top, and there's one in the back there. So they'll come around.
There's just a ton of
There's
John
something over there. Yeah,
perfect for little babies.
Down in there, and they're eating Daphnia and Cyclops.
Yep.
Frozen brine.
I love it. And then what do we have in the rest here?
So in these 3 tanks are guppies. The lime endlers.
Oh, these are endlers. I love endlers.
And this tank is practically all males. And what I did was I separated these males out because these males look like they have sort of a cobra marking on the body.
Okay.
You'll see more of a, they'll come up.
Yeah, a little skittish right now.
Yeah. Versus the ones that typically just have the large black dot.
Uh-huh.
And then in here, these are some, the koi, tuxedo koi guppies.
Those are
There's
gorgeous.
a couple of males. There's a pair down here. There's a male and female down here.
Good looking fish.
Yeah. And then, so the guppies down here, these 2 tanks also have...
oh, you have shrimp in there? Cherry shrimp?
Yeah, the cherries. And you just kind of have to get down there. But these tanks, like this, you can see some of the shrimp up there. And I'll drop some food in there. You can see they'll start coming out.
Yeah, I see some of the cherry shrimp in there. And some wild type cherries, yeah.
Yeah. I got these from a guy that brought them over a couple years ago out of the Raleigh Club. He just had them out some outside tubs, and I just took them. Yeah, and had shrimp in them all. I've had the blues and the orange and the yellows, and these aren't the hard to keep ones. There's 2. These are the Caridinas, I think, versus the regular Caridinas.
Yeah, the Neos are a lot easier. Right. Your cryptocorin and all your tanks look great.
Yeah, it's always been a plant that's done well.
Yeah, some beautiful libraries here. What about this tiny tank back there? Anything?
No, there's nothing there. Just a 5-gallon that I had some killifish in at one time.
Yeah.
So in here, I've got the other half of these blue top sword, Japan blue top sword. These are the platinums.
Oh.
So there's a female in the back.
Uh-huh.
And there's a little male in here that's a cross between the platinum and the blues. As you can see, it's got a little blue and a little bit of platinum. But
I see a little fry down there. A little bit
they're in the back there. They were out earlier.
Yeah.
And then the scleromonster, the Barbados fry. I had a whole bunch in here, but there's like 5. I'm just going to have one of them.
Are Barbados, are they a Corridora, or is that different than
Well, they Explorer and the Corridors genus, and then they created a genus called Scleromonstax, I think because of the size. These are like the mustache cories or whatever you call them.
Okay.
The adults are down here on the bottom. These are one of my favorite fish.
Oh, these are super cool. And they're chunky, and they got like that, you know, snout nose.
Yep, there's 2 males and 3 females.
Oh,
you
you're
can see
feeding
the
them
2
blood.
males. There's the 2 males right there.
Okay.
And the smaller ones are the females.
Oh, so the
They
smaller
love-
ones are females.
They love the blood ones.
Yeah, oh, they're going crazy for it. Look at them go.
And that one, those males are rocking on probably close to 3, maybe a little more, 3 inches, a little more.
Yeah. No,
And
they're
you can
good
see
size.
the ventral fins
Yep.
on them, or the pectoral fins actually. On the males, they're dark and they're elongated. And of course, you can see the gold bar on the nose.
Mm-hmm. Super cool. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's tour. Bob, your fish room is beautiful. Thanks for bringing me along. I hope to see some of these fish at the auction because they're looking really nice. Last question before we wrap up. So for all the people out there that want to have their own dedicated fish room, like if you would give them one piece of advice, like what would it be?
Plan it out and try to get it easy enough where you know where your filters are. If you're using air, which I suggest use air because that's the easiest to run multiple tanks off of, that you know where your airline tubing, just kind of have it organized. The biggest thing for me is water changing. So I'll just siphon out into the backyard.
Yep.
And then in the winter, I have the pump system. I'll hook it up in the bathroom at the top of the stairs.
Gotcha.
But in the summer, I just run it right off the faucet on the side of the house.
I like it.
And I just treat it with brine.
Well, guys, that wraps up today's tour. Bob, once again,
Thanks,
loved visiting your fish room, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao.